All right, welcome back to TML Weekly. This is season 2, episode 8. As always, brought to you by Bjorn and Don Cherry Sports Grill. There's a lot to talk about today. I'm finally back. It's been a while, but let's get into the hottest topic right now, which is Jim Montgomery, fired by the Boston Bruins. What are your takes?
So
Go ahead,
listen,
Tom.
listen. For Leafs Nation, I just want to remind everybody, this is what successful franchises do. They don't put up with mediocrity. They don't accept nonsense. Okay, we lit 5 years on fire with the AHL coach. 5 years. This guy was a nominee for the Jack Adams Trophy 2 years ago. He had the all-time record for most points in a season. And you know what? Not good enough. You got to go. He had what, 2 playoff round wins in 3 seasons or two and a half seasons. Boom, you got to go. 5 years we lit on fire. Brendan Shanahan, all of them. This is what should have been done with Sheldon Keefe a long time ago. I have no problem with it. And I'm going to give props out to our boy Johnny Mack. When we were doing the show a couple of weeks ago, Johnny came out and said, listen, you're benching Pasta and you're having issues with Patrice Bergeron. And this is not a recipe for success in Boston. And lo and behold, it's here today. Interesting factor. And again, I just, for all of the muffins who watch and get bent out of shape about the Leafs and we keep changing coaches and all this nonsense, the Jack Adams nominees from 2 years ago: Hackstall in Seattle, Gonzo; Lindy Ruff in Jersey, Gonzo; Montgomery in Boston, Gonzo. We lit 5 years on fire with a guy who couldn't win a division. That's it. That's all I got to say. Well done, Boston.
Well, first of all, Patrice Bergeron retired a couple years ago. So
you know what I meant, not Bergeron.
But it's funny you say that because I think he has a lot to do with what's going on here. So if you look at the record, it was Montgomery's record is 120, 41, and 23. Right, best record in the show since he came into the league.
I think a 71% point
percentage.
It's crazy, right?
Here's the problem, and here's why that team isn't winning. Brad Marchand is getting a little long in the tooth. The way he's not a very big guy, he plays like one, and he's lost a step. I think pass is still good. I think their D's fine. Obviously, goaltending, if the right system there is fine. You're missing a guy like Patrice Bergeron. You're missing him. And I don't think when is the management going to have some culpability is my question.
They've got all kinds,
right? Wow. I mean, they're I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't the end in Boston. So clearly, when and I spoke of this on a previous show as well, when they were negotiating and it got dirty there in the summer on the Swayman deal. And all of a sudden, Cam Neely's talking and Don Sweeney isn't. That's not a good look. If I'm the general manager there, I probably am looking over my shoulder now too. But I mean, I look at it and I say it every year, and I talk about the Leafs and this team would fall into that same conversation. That's a team that can win the Stanley Cup the way it's currently constructed. They've got enough good players. They've got enough depth that, I don't think the problem's John Montgomery. I think it's a multitude of things. He's going to be the guy that, it's easier to fire him than trade Marchand and try to, fix it from the player's side. But I mean, the guy, the guy's not going to be out of work long. Let's put it that way. He's no different than Sheldon. He had a real good record. No scandals here in Boston. He had a little bit of a scandal. Where was he? Dallas or St. Louis?
Dallas. Yeah, he had a bit of a drinking problem, and he copped to it and did his thing. So fair enough.
Yeah, no, he's back. I think he won't be out of work for very long. I think he's a passionate, good young coach, and that I think will find work. But yeah, it's good for Toronto. You want all the mayhem that you can have in Boston is a good thing for the Toronto Maple Leafs and their fan base.
Yeah, I think Montgomery going is the start of the domino effect in the NHL. I think you see Sullivan, maybe Lalonde in Detroit.
Yeah.
Start to go. And then Montgomery will find a place probably within a week. I'd say.
Oh, he'll work. Somebody will fire somebody to get him.
Yeah.
He's that type of. He's a
good coach. He's a good coach.
Yeah. And Joe Sacco coming in. He's been the heir apparent. I saw him chicklets. And if this is true, man, look out, right? But Granelli, I think, said on chicklets that he said Sacco was told when he became associate coach this year, he was told because Monty doesn't have a contract, he's got a really short leash, and you're our guy. So anyway, Granelli says this from a pretty reliable. He's not going to say it on that show without a reliable source. I'm thinking, ooh, look out! I mean, that's going to be
John. That's a terrible look.
Yeah, it really is a
terrible look. If that's accurate, that's a terrible look.
I've been in that situation where I kind of a couple of times where I've maybe as a coach I've been at odds with the ownership or management, and they've put in a guy to be an assistant to me that I didn't fully trust, right? And when you're a coach and you have assistants that are where you got the same common goal to win hockey games, and you maybe don't trust the guy that's on the bench with you because you don't know what about your conversation is he bringing back to the ownership or management or whatever. And both situations that I was in like that didn't really end well.
Can't imagine they would.
Yeah. So anyway, I can sympathize, but I don't think he'll be able to work long. I don't know. He wasn't on very much. Boston doesn't pay their coaches like. But
hold on. So let's go back to something that you said before, because I think like what you just said brings up a very interesting point. You asked what kind of culpability does management finally get to have? If what you're saying is accurate, it's a terrible look for management. But you've also got to remember, management epically badly messed up this goaltending scenario that has brought on all of this. They traded Ullmark away before they had a deal with Swayman. And listen, you guys know how big of a Jeremy Swayman fan I am. I think he's a fantastic goalie. But you traded Ullmark away for spare parts. You allowed him to sit out. You then had Cam Neely get involved over Sweeney. You've got free agents. Zadorov hasn't looked great. Who's the other guy that they brought in? Who's the other guy?
I think Zadorov's been really good.
Zadorov hasn't really been very good. No, I don't. I've seen Boston play 5 or 6 games this year, and Zadorov has looked ordinary.
I thought
he's taking a penalty every game.
He's looked ordinary. I don't think he's looked particularly good.
I haven't minded the shifts I've watched him. The other thing that Boston, people forget about Boston is they remember when they signed the kid a couple years ago that was bullying the other kid and with all the online stuff, and that's there and this and that and the other thing. I don't think they've recovered in that market from that yet. So maybe it's time. I mean, the problem is and this is what teams run into is when you bring in, a legend of your organization,
Cam Neely,
to be a GM or a VP or a president of hockey ops, whatever you want to do. It's very, very difficult to let that guy go, right? So Cam Neely, probably next to Bobby Orr and Phil Esposito, is the,
Ray Bourque, maybe throw Bourque in there too, yeah.
Score 50 goals. He would hit like a freight train and would fight any. Cam Neely didn't have to fight very often because he did it really good and nobody really wanted it. So that's where you're kind of looking tricky here, right? And you get Detroit with Stevie Y now, and you got Joe Sakic in Colorado. Those guys almost have a job for life. Shanahan never played for Toronto, and he seems to be Teflon here, right? Like he never played here, but you would think maybe he might have bit the bullet a little bit here over the last couple times that they've had to move guys around, but so that makes it tough, and you're almost lame duck if you're working for a guy like that. So I know the McFarland guy in Colorado that's the GM there now under Joe. He was the guy that was doing it anyway. He's a real smart guy. I think your dad knows him, Nolan. Yeah. So, real smart guy. I've talked to guys within the organization. He's brilliant. Cap guy, smart, real good judge of talent. He was Joe's guy when Joe became the GM there, right? He was called an assistant GM then, but he was doing the stuff that he's doing now. Joe trusts him enough and steps up. But it's tough. I don't know. We'll see. I think you might see some wholesale. If these guys kind of struggle with even getting into the playoffs, if they get into Pittsburgh territory, and that's a whole other, that's getting goofy there too.
Yeah, I think Boston's way above Pittsburgh. They got passes 27. McAvoy, Swayman, they're all pretty young.
Oh, I just said it. This team can win now. They just gotta kind of maybe and sometimes a coaching change does that. It doesn't always mean the guy's a bad coach. It just means that they need a different coach and a different voice and maybe
just for the record, I feel like I said that for like the last 3 years. You guys all told me I was crazy.
You don't really listen, honestly, when you talk.
That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me.
All right, do you just want to get into the JT Miller stuff quickly?
Yeah, you know what? I want to speak briefly on this, and I talked to John there off the air before you joined, Nolan. Let the guy have his thing, right? I mean, we've had made tremendous progress in not just hockey but all sports and stuff, and the initiatives that are out there. The Bell Let's Talk, and I'm not saying, I don't know. I have no idea what he's dealing with, and really it's none of my business. But let the guy do what he has to do to come back healthy and pray for his family and whatnot, and just let it be. Right? His wife had to take down her Instagram today, which is a shame. I don't know what he's dealing with. I wish the young man all the best and hope that he ends up, coming back stronger, because he's a fantastic hockey player. He does it all. This guy does it all. Like both ends of the ice. He's gritty. He scores. I didn't like him a few years ago. I thought they made a mistake picking him over Horvat. I thought, that's more of a character guy that I think maybe you picked the wrong guy, but he's proved me wrong. So, whatever he's dealing with, hopefully it gets dealt with and he can he come back and help that team. It's a good young team.
Yep.
Lots of talent. They're right there in the playoff hunt, and they can make some noise in the West if they peak at the right time.
Yep. Well said. Let's get into the Reaves hit on Nurse that led to a 5-game suspension.
Okay,
John?
So listen, when we watch this game, I said this in the chat almost instantly. Listen, is it a suspension? Absolutely. It's regardless of whether you like the hit or don't like the hit, it's a hit to the head. And the NHL, and God bless Jennifer Botterill and her, attempts to get contact out of the game. This is right up their alley. I'm not saying it's not a suspendable hit. I'm not saying it at all. It absolutely is. But I want to be crystal clear, and I don't think it's been said enough. Darnell Nurse has culpability here. Darnell Nurse is coming around the board, coming around the net, and his head is down, staring at the puck.
His head wasn't down. His head was up, but his eyes were down. There's a difference.
Okay. He's not.
There is. Well, his head's in the position that.
If his head was where hold on. If his head was where it should have been, he would have seen what was coming and would have braced for the impact. Right? I'm sorry, man. That's the reality of the play.
Yeah, I mean, culpability. At the end of the day, he hit him in the head. Did Ryan Reaves intend to run him? No.
That's my whole point here, though. That's my whole point.
These hits happen, right? It's unfortunate, but I wouldn't make my argument to you was I wouldn't make Darnell Nurse culpable. Whether you have your head down or your head up your ass, you don't deserve to get a shot in the head, period. And yeah, is it a perfect storm? Yeah, that happens, but it happens. It really does.
Yeah, but that's just it, though. I agree.
See a guy back checking and he's not even doing anything with his stick, and the other guy steps on his stick and goes into the boards head first, right? You're culpable. You didn't mean to. But I like that. I still think Edmonton, we've talked about this with the Leafs a lot. I don't care whether it's Ryan Reaves or Bob Probert or Dave Schultz or Tiger Williams or the toughest guys that ever played the game. Nobody addressed that. Nobody addressed that in the moment. And I know they couldn't wait. You had to do it then. But that's how you build teams. You don't build teams by going and doing a stage fight in the third period when the game's 5-0 and it's over. Right? Somebody jumps off the bench at that point if you have to. Right?
John, look at what took place last night in the Washington game. Okay? When Ovechkin gets hit, and if you watched it, there was no intent. That was a fluke. Two guys going opposite ways. They caught knees. But you know what? Tom Wilson came on the ice, and good for him. He answered the bell. But there's a difference in Washington than Edmonton, right? Like just to highlight the difference between the two teams, right? One going in one direction, one going in the other direction.
Yeah. Well, but they had an opportunity, I guess, where what my point was, and I've talked about this on the show for years now. There's moments in a season, in every season at every level. There's very defining moments, and at the end, when you reflect back on a season, whether it was successful or not successful, you remember those moments. I can remember moments from 30 years ago coaching teams, right?
Well, listen,
specific details that I can't. My wife gets mad when I come home with not what she asked me for, but 3 bags of other stuff, right? But I can remember a kid getting hurt or somebody sticking up for somebody when I was playing, and wow, I remember how kind of close that brand, and those opportunities are there, right? Morgan Riley last year was at one of those moments.
Timothy Liljegren last year breaking his ankle.
Yeah. So little things that you have an opportunity to do. And I'm sure there was somebody on that Edmonton bench that might be playing 3.5 to 5 minutes a night that could have jumped off the boards when Reaves was kind of looking like, what did I do? And just start feeding them.
But then you get a big suspension for jumping in the game.
It's 10 games. But my point is, if you got a guy that's playing 3 to 5 minutes,
that is the correct answer.
Maybe this is the way that I can get some more ice. Take my 10 games. It's not gonna.
But then they get 10 games and they get their pay taken away.
Yeah, most of these guys, that's not gonna. They would rather be, have an opportunity. A young kid or somebody that's not playing a lot, that's an opportunity, because a guy like that probably going to get, when he gets back from a suspension, is probably going to get some ice. And I remember when Clarkson did it, and that wasn't the time to do it.
That was preseason too, though, wasn't it? With Clarkson
wasn't the guy that we needed to do it. He was our big free agent guy coming in, but it was.
Was that preseason? I think it was preseason too. Like
that's
of all the times to do it,
that's when John Scott went after Kessel, and then Bernier and Miller fought.
93, 94 preseason.
No, that was like 2014.
Yeah, because he just came over from New Jersey.
Oh,
he had
yeah,
that 1 year where he scored like
13, 14 is what.
Yeah.
Because Bolin won the cup in 13, and then immediately was traded to Toronto 2 days after the cup.
There he is.
Jack's got the
one.
You got
me that.
Yeah, I got you that. Jack's got one up in his room, and it's the goal going in. There it is. There, that's signed, Johnny.
Attaboy.
That's the goal going in.
Yeah, right place, right time.
13. Yeah,
always liked David Bolin.
So Dave Clarkson's down in Denver. So he takes a couple of my buddies down around the Denver team hunting. and they go, and they send me pictures all the time. There's Clarkson, and so he's running a junior team and some hockey development and a North American Hockey League team. I don't know what, Boulder or something like that. But yeah, so he's obviously retired and whatnot. What else do we have? What do we got coming up? It's pretty slow. We got Matthews. We got to talk about this.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So Matthews, Tree Living came out today, I believe, and said Matthews flew to Germany to see a specialist that he's worked with before. So it's upper body injury. Everyone's thinking it might be his wrist because that's been a big problem in the past, obviously. But what do you think about Matthews flying over to Europe to see a doctor?
So I think it confirms it's his wrist, because he's used a similar treatment before, and that's the only injury that I know that has been nagging. So I'm speculating for sure, but I think that there's and for a guy that plays the way that he does and shoots the puck the way that he does, a slight issue in your wrist could really throw you off, your timing, things like that. I like the fact that they're keeping their head above water. I like the fact that they're not rushing them back. I'm not panicking at this point. I think if you look at their schedule and look at the way that they've been performing, if they've lost the last 5, pretty sure Austin's playing against Vegas.
Yeah.
Right. But their heads above water. They're moving forward. They're a point or 2 out of Florida. To lead the Atlantic.
5-1 without Matthews.
Keep him out until Christmas if it's going to help him be better in April and May.
It fixed the power play too.
Okay, so here's my question. Do you remember last week when he was going to play? And nothing to see here, guys. Everything's fine. Nothing to see, right? Do you think that they wanted everybody to know that Austin Matthews was flying to Germany? No, they wanted nothing. Somebody found this and was going to leak the story. There was no skate today. And then all of a sudden the GM comes out and he's doing a press conference. Guys, I have absolutely zero faith. Zero. This is the same group, remember, that said Calle Yarncroc right around the corner. Everything's fine, guys. He's going to be great. He's going to be back in the lineup. Calle Yarncroc now is month to month. We've gone from he's going to play to, you know what? Now he's in Germany. I don't know. Maybe I have no idea what's wrong with Austin Matthews. No idea. All I know is you don't fly to Germany when you're going to play next week. That's like, I feel like we're in la la land, and because it's Leafs media, everybody just goes, well, that must be what's true because that's what they're telling us. They haven't been honest about injuries all the way along. And
they can't be. They can't be.
No. This is something that I think needs to change in the NHL. The NHL is the only league where you get to do and please be clear, I blame Brian Burke for all of this. Brian Burke was the one who came up with the upper body and lower body injury. Before that, you had an idea of what was going on. Brian Burke came up with it's upper body, and now everybody says it's upper body, it's lower body. It's the only league in the world where you can gamble and not know who's playing, what the injuries are, what the likelihood of somebody being in. You don't have to know. You're not allowed to know any of that. And I think it's ridiculous. I think that Gary Bettman, especially as he gets into gambling and we've got in-game situations and you want to have live betting and things in game and in arena, and they're making money off of it. I think it's ridiculous that you don't get to know what's wrong with these players. If it's Austin Matt, listen, you guys might not be concerned. I'm getting more concerned by the day.
Because there's guys like Rafi Torres and Matt Cook and guys like that in the league. And if I said, hey, you know what, Mitch Marner.
Yeah, but you know what? In the NFL, there was Brian Cox before that.
I'm just saying that there's a reason.
You saw Draisaitl in the playoffs a couple years ago. Calgary found out that it was his ankle. And you could see him deliberately chopping at his ankle.
Guys, this is not new. What do you think happens in the NFL? This is not pretend.
You can't run out of bounds in hockey, my friend.
Yeah, but when you're on the bottom of a pile, you can, All I'm saying is I think it's ridiculous that you don't get to know. And I put absolutely zero stock in anything that comes out of the Air Canada Center with regards to injuries and who's doing what. Absolutely zero stock. None. Speaking of that, do we know what's going on with David Kampf?
I think he's hurt.
No, just go on the IR.
Yeah, I think he might be.
Same thing. Yeah. They're rolling along. Minten's coming up. You know what? I'm okay. I really am. I mean, I think if it was something serious with Matthews, he'd have surgery. They haven't. We'll see. Let's give it a couple weeks, and if he's still not playing, 2 weeks from today, if he's not playing next week, but he's skating with the team, I'm okay. 2 weeks, I might start getting concerned. Right?
Yeah, I understand the Matthews thing because I think the Leafs have 2 games within the next 2 weeks or something. That might have been a couple days ago. That they play tomorrow and Sunday.
Tomorrow, Saturday, and then I think again on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yes, really light schedule this month. So I understand. Like, I'd rather have Matthews 100% healthy heading into playoffs down the stretch rather than have him play games in early November.
Okay, what else do we got?
So we got Minten coming up. He should be playing tomorrow.
So I'm of the mindset with Fraser Minten. Do you want to know what I would love to see more than anything for Fraser Minten? I would love to see this be the moment that Fraser Minten decides I'm an NHL hockey player. I'm going to make it known that I belong and make it impossible to ever go back down. Like, take the decision out of the hands of Berube. Make your impact in the game, in the lineup, a necessity every game. Do the polar opposite of Nick Robertson. Like you know what? And I'm gonna give Johnny his flowers on this one. He said it for a long time, and he was bang on. Nick Robertson is showing that while he has the shot of an NHL caliber hockey player, that is where the extent of his game lies. And I think anybody that's watched the Maple Leafs long enough or seriously that does not come to that conclusion is clearly a Sheldon Keefe fan.
Yeah, I think he has 1 goal in 16 games, and it just seems like every shift you see him play, it looks like he's falling over, getting bumped off pucks.
He hasn't played enough games. Okay, he's been the extra guy in Toronto for 3 years. He should have been in the Marlies playing every situation, top line minutes, PP, PK, 35 minutes a game, right? But no, they bring him up and he's making NHL money on a min deal. But then, he's practicing every day and traveling and staying in nice hotels, but he's not getting better, right? So that was a drop ball. And sometimes what happens too is the agents get in the way. Right? The agent will come in and he'll say, hey, you know what? Bring my guy up or trade him. But they're not thinking about the betterment of the player. They're thinking about the dough, right? How does an agent get paid? He gets paid a percentage of his client's salary. Okay. So I have a salary of $125,000 in the American Hockey League and $675,000 in the National Hockey League. So the way that's paid is it's prorated, so they'll say, okay, there's 162 days in the season. So they'll take that salary in the NHL and then it'll work out to be X amount of dollars per day, right? Yep. Well, in the American Hockey League, in that case like him, it's probably a fifth of that, 20% of what he would make in the National Hockey League. So let's just, for argument's sake, So let's just say that if he's playing in with the Marlies, he's getting $100 a day, right? Right, and he's playing every night. He's playing lots, right? But the best interest for the player is to make more money, and the agent to get more of a percentage of said money. So they'll pressure to have him up, right? So he makes $500 a day, and the agent gets his juice in this, but the kid's not getting better. And he goes out, he's gripping his stick because he's so scared to make a mistake because he's going to be in the press box the next night. right? He's never been a regular. He made the team out of camp this year and then was scratched 4 or 5 games later. You know, it's not going to work. And quite frankly, nobody wants him, or he'd be gone. If there was somebody that, you know, Dallas may come sniffing if they stumble a little bit or lose a couple forwards just because of the brother combination. I think you're going to see Willie's brother Alex get a shot here sooner than later. Yeah, I think, you know, he's right in the mix.
And he's been playing well for the Marlies too.
Yeah, and then I've heard about Brandon Tanev from a couple. Usually when I hear something once, okay, that makes sense, kind of. But when you hear it from 2 or 3 different sources and nothing concrete, but you know, is that a guy that, you know, there's been success of putting brothers together, and there's been failure too, right? But you know, at least you know the kind of character of the kid that's coming in. If the brothers involved.
Yeah, I think Tree Living, part of his pitch to Chris Tanev this summer might have been, come sign Toronto, and we'll try to get Brandon Tanev via trade, or he's a free agent next summer. Yeah, so that could be
for sure. Those are part of all those conversations.
Yeah.
Before we move on, did anybody read about the Bertuzzi stuff that came? Resurfaced
with him and running his mouth, and with Foligno and saying he contacted beforehand, and
so Foligno called him during the playoffs last year and said, "Hey, why don't you come to Chicago?" Well, you know, somebody got wind of that and said, "Well, isn't that tampering? Like, you can't, you know."
Okay, forget a red card. I'm going to put a black card on the play.
They're tampering. Everybody's tampering, from 6-year-old hockey to the NHL and beyond. Everybody's tampering. We used to recruit in season in the MTHL when I coached there, in season, and you couldn't have a skate to try kids out for next year. So it would be little Jimmy's birthday. We'd have a birthday party. True story, man. You can't make. They would bring in 30 kids that we don't know trying out for a spot because it's Jimmy's birthday that day.
Yeah,
ice and you know, that's how they do it. There's
but listen,
ways.
This is my issue with this whole pretend nonsense. Okay, every year on Free Agent Frenzy, okay, we sit here and we watch at 12:01. Mike Richards is just signed with the New York Rangers for $68 million, and we all go, "Wow." Isn't that amazing? 36 seconds after the window is open, the contract signed, sealed, but there's no tampering. Nobody had any discussions about anything before. It's so pretend that I find it almost the hubris of the NHL to even make this a story and pretend that they're shocked, annoyed, upset by it is just, to me, beyond laughable. And a really big black mark on what I think has been a really good year for that year and a half, 2 years for that office, getting out of Arizona, getting that Prime TV deal done. Like, I think there's been a lot of good things coming out of the NHL head office in the last couple of years. This is just, it makes it look like a clown.
It's going to be talked about at the next round of bargaining for sure.
It's pretend.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a farce, and
you know what? I would just like to point out Tyler Bertuzzi and his big contract again this year. 6 goals, playing top line minutes, 7 points, playing top line minutes.
Here's a question.
No different than he was here.
Here's a question for you. Yeah, but you know, let's talk about 98. Okay.
Wow.
So if you're,
has he played his way off Team Canada?
That's what I was going to ask.
I don't think he ever was.
It's a legit question.
I don't think he's played his way off yet, but
it's getting
there's a
close.
couple of young guys coming up that may be working on playing their way on, right? And there's multiple of those players, not even young guys like Sam Reinhart that weren't in the year ago, wouldn't have even been thought about with Team Canada. Sam Bennett, right?
Verhaeghe.
Yeah, you know, there's guys that you know we weren't thinking about 3 years ago. that if it was going to be a best on best, and they were in the league then, but there's some players emerging that what about Hyman? There's another interesting case, right? After last year, it's like Locke playing on the wing with McDavid. Locke, is he now? And then so Bedard, if he, Bedard needs to play, top 6, top 9 minutes to be successful. But they're going to they're playing in small rinks. It's not Olympic ice like the Olympics would be. They've got to have some guys that can check the Matthews of the world and Caulfield and guys like that are going to, be very, very, very difficult to play. So you can't have, I don't know. Bedard away from the puck is good enough to play, right? Is he a power play specialist? Maybe. But,
yeah. No, that's what he is. No, be clear. If he makes the team, that's why Connor Bedard's on the team.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. And I think Logan Thompson is making his case right now to be the guy. Right? And there's an easy way to do that too without disrespecting maybe the older guys, is you go in and you pick your 3, and maybe it's Aiden Hill and Bennington and Logan Thompson. I don't know. There's 4 or 5 guys that it could be. But I'm going to them and I'm saying, you're all starting a game. Off you go.
I'm not going to lie to you, John. You're a much kinder, gentler man than I would be.
Yeah, but you want competition, because what if he falters?
If he falters, you go to your number. Listen.
So, but if you go in and you say, hey, it's wide open, boys, show me how you play.
Yeah, no. This is where I have a problem as elite athletes. You are the best of the best representing your country. If you need me to hold your hand and you're not ready to go, you shouldn't be on the team at all. Sorry, shouldn't be on the team.
As a coach, you may win a few games, but you're not going to win any championships with that mindset.
John, we're playing tournament hockey. Yeah. We're playing tournament hockey. Everybody comes together for 2.5 weeks and then goes their separate ways.
So if you have the opportunity to have all 3 guys going in thinking they have a shot to make it,
sure. But you know as well as I do.
Tell the other 2 guys that they're horse shit and they're no good, and that's your guy. And then when he lets in 8 on the first night against Matthews, has 4 on the power play, and then you got to go to the other guy and say, "Hey, man, remember when I said you weren't going to play this week? Going to need you now."
So hold on. So you're telling me as a pro athlete or a head coach, when things don't go well, you don't change on the fly? Come on, what are we talking about here?
I just wouldn't go in and anoint a number 1 goalie because there's no clear one.
Okay,
you're saying no. You got to tell them.
I'm saying to me, Logan Thompson is the best Canadian option this year, and it's not close. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Jordan Binnington at one point in time had 3 wins in the regular season. 2 of them were against the Leafs. Right? And we were like a month and a half into the season.
He can play in the big spotlight. He's the guy.
I mean, yeah, okay. All I'm saying is, for me, if you're taking the best players,
who's the GM of Canada? You remember?
Who is the GM for Canada?
Binnington's GM.
Oh, it's Armstrong. Oh, well, shit. Never mind.
Binnington's there.
Binnington's going to
part of this team, or you just lost your number 1 goalie in St. Louis.
Oh, no. Yeah, so Binnington will start. There it is. Okay, well, so we've already decided that. So then it's Logan Thompson or Aiden Hill as your backup.
Give all 3 of them a shot. Maybe, I really would.
Yeah, I think the goalie comes down to whoever's hottest at the time.
Yeah, but the NHL and this are apples and oranges.
Yeah,
it's
true.
Going to be 2 different games. You're playing a structured team game. You're going into a building. There's lots of scouting. You know what they're going to do. Now you're going to be playing best on best, where there's no shifts off, right? These lineups that they're putting together, if you take a shift off or don't get your guy, it's over. It's in the back of your net. There's too many good players that are going to be on the ice. So, pressure will slide into. And this isn't a money thing either, right? This is, I'm not sure how physical it's going to be. I hope it's physical, but I'm not convinced it's going to be, because you're going to have a lot of guys going in there with a message in their ear from their respective team that says, you know what, go have fun, and I hope you guys win, but please stay healthy. Right?
And you're going against teammates and friends.
We got a stretch coming up here, but that's when it gets the most vicious, man. When you put your flag on your jersey, and it gets, it could get pretty, could get pretty ugly. That'll be fun to watch, and I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, it's going to be good hockey. Now, so here's an uncomfortable question that I think needs to get asked, and I don't think it's been asked anywhere recently that I've seen.
Yeah.
Does anybody legitimately consider this a best-on-best tournament without the Russians?
No, I think it's got an asterisk, like those boycott Olympics.
I think so too.
Kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, but
I get it.
I'm glad they didn't call it the World Cup. They called it the Four Nations Cup.
And listen, and I get it. I get why they're not there. I get it. Whether you agree, disagree, or whatever, I can understand it. I'm just, what I haven't heard talked about very much is, and you know what? And the Czechs aren't there. Like I found it really interesting. Like we went with us, the States, Finland. It's like, I get it, traditional guys, but I mean, like, you're going to tell me with the evolution of the Czechs and even the Germans or Finland, or sorry, not Finland, but Switzerland, like you could have made this more than what it is, I think.
Yeah, you know what? There's a lot of people that are pissed off that they went this route. I think they had the time to do a 4-team tournament. They didn't want to go down the the young guns like they did last time in the Team World or whatever with like the Slovenians and the
it's the only way it would work.
Unfortunately, I think they needed to get the best on best going to be ready for the next Olympics. I think that's going to be a big deal. But absolutely right. I mean, my son and I, Jack's here now listening. We were talking yesterday at breakfast about potential rosters. Right, we talked about the guys that they already named, and then we started talking about goaltending, and I was like, oh, the U.S. their goaltending, holy smokes! And then Jack's like, what about if the Russians could come? Look at their goaltending.
Yeah, Vasi, Brovsky,
and Vasilevsky. Who do you start there?
Sorokin's cut from the team.
Think about that. Sorokin's not playing.
The other guy in Varlamov, right?
Yeah,
there's another one, right?
Yeah.
So who do you start there? Vasilevsky's won 2 of the last 5 cups. Bob won it last year. Shesterkin's been the best goalie in the world since Price retired.
Yeah.
Consistently. So yeah, they'd be good too. But hopefully, stuff gets resolved before the Olympics and the best players. Like I'd love to see Ovi's swan song be that Olympics. I think it'd be pretty cool.
Ovi, Kaprizov, Kucherov, Panarin with those goalies.
Don't hold your breath, boys.
Yeah. They could play as the unified or whatever.
Commonwealth of Independent States.
Yeah. No, that's what it'll probably be because I think the IIHF will have a lot of pressure put on the Olympic Committee to say if there's any way we can let this hockey team play, but I agree with the stance too. I don't like getting political, as you guys know, on these things because it just leads to goofiness, and there's enough goofiness going on.
There's enough goofiness in the world
right now. We don't even need to go down that road. So, but anyway, anything else, Nolan?
No, that should be everything. Let's do a quick point predictions, and then
So what do we got? Vegas.
So we got Vegas Wednesday. I'll have boots on the ground there.
Utah.
And
are you going game?
You're at the Vegas game.
Yeah, I was hoping to see Matthews, but I understand for the greater good.
Are you sitting with Shanahan again tonight, or like for the game, or what's going on?
No, I wish. That'd be cool one day.
So so what do we got we got 2 games between now and next Tuesday?
Vegas Wednesday and Utah on Sunday.
Okay, so I took at the end of last week, John and I, when we got on, we went up to next week, and I think I took all 6 points. So I'm taking the 2 from Edmonton, and I'm going to carry Vegas and Utah.
I'll say 5 points. Or no, I can't.
Yeah.
I'll say 3 points.
3? Okay. I'm going to go all 4. Just hoping to get a win tomorrow. But
a couple of front runner bandwagon. Oh, let's go. Two good teams coming in.
You know what though? I feel like that's when we play well though.
No, for sure.
If we were playing Buffalo and St. Louis right now, I think I'd take 0 out of 4.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Yeah. All right, boys, we'll have a good week, and we'll.
Before we go, hold on. Do you guys have any thoughts on the NCAA stuff?
Yeah, you know what? Quickly,
Sorry, just before we get going, if we don't have time, we don't have time. But
yeah, I do. From what I'm understanding, just in my conversations, the BCHL is getting hit. So the BCHL, as everybody knows, broke away from Hockey Canada, and they've actually even absorbed 5 or 6 teams out of the Alberta Junior Hockey, and they were the premier destination for players that wanted to play, even more so than the USHL. If you could get a spot in the BCHL, the chances of you getting an NC2A full ride scholarship, Division 1, were way better than any other league in the world. Okay. Now they break away from Hockey Canada. They're renegade. They're doing their own thing. They're talking about showcases where they play the USHL and the final, all kinds of plans. This thing kicked them in the head. They're losing players already to Major Junior. Right? Guys are saying, well, why would I, I'm playing in Chilliwack, BC in the BCHL. Good league. Not taking nothing away from that hockey. Right? But they play 44 games, not 62. And it's not as good as the dub, the Q, or the O. That's why
they rolled the dice and they lost.
So what's happening is, if a kid wants to go to college, he's not going to be in the NHL. A college wants him. But then the London Knights call and say, hey, man, you know what? We drafted you in the 14th round 3 years ago when you first went through the draft. We'd love for you to come here, right? Why don't you come here? We'll give you the Canadian scholarship, package as well if it doesn't work out at Michigan State. But, we're London. You can go down, you can go down to Ann Arbor or wherever, Lansing, and see the guys whenever you want. And, there's going to be a lot of guys moving. And then it's going to make it very difficult for the BCHL. Very, very difficult for the BCHL to recruit. So that's who's kind of getting it right now. I said all along Canadian college is going to get it a little bit too, because their level will most likely drop because some of the top guys that played Major Junior that ended up going to, the UNBs of the world and some of the top programs, Alberta, Saskatchewan, those guys are going to go down and play their, 21, 22, 23-year-old years at, Harvard, right? If you can get a degree out of Harvard, it's worth a little bit more than University of Alberta, right?
And on top of that, you're going to get a little cake too.
Yeah, oh yeah. There's money to be made down there. So the whole world is shifting here right now. It's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. I think the smart people and the people, in some of these leagues at the position where you're making the decisions, are ahead of the curve. This isn't, nobody woke up one day and was like, oh my God, they did this. It's been talked about for quite some time. So there'd be, contingency plans and strategies and what ifs that have been discussed over and over in boardrooms at every different level. But yeah, it's going to be different. There's going to be good options for the kids, which is great, right? Your kid can't, goes and plays in Major Junior. It doesn't work out. And now you still have that option that none of us up until now ever had. Going back to when I played, same thing. As soon as you dress in the OHL or the Q or the Dub, you're done.
Listen, it's great for kids. It's going to make hockey better. It's going to be better hockey in the NCAA. It's going to be better hockey in the OHL. It's going to be better all around. And most importantly, it's going to be better functionally for the kids that are playing. Not the kids that are going to make the pros and make the big bones. Not them. They're going to be fine either way. This is going to be better for the kids who are playing the game because they love to play the game but aren't quite great enough, that are going to be able to play a little bit longer, gain a little bit more experience, and make a little scratch in the process. Good by me.
Yep.
On that note, thanks to our sponsors, Bjorn Don Cherries. We'll see you. We'll reconvene here next week, Tuesday night, same time.
Nolan, are you in the country next week or?
Yep. Yeah, I'll be here.
Okay, just checking. Go Leafs, go.
Let's go.